Hey, it's Travis. Too many camp directors run just on gut feel. Our free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic is your dashboard for resilience. Take it today at camp.mba/Travis. Again, that's camp.mba/Travis. What would we do if we were starting at a completely new to us summer camp?
This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
A big thanks to our sponsors who make the CampHacker podcast possible. You don't lead camp because you love the office, right? UltraCamp has everything you need to manage your program so you can spend more time doing what you love. Manage staff, register campers, take payments, and direct communication all in one place. Find out more at ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker.
Hey, Camp Mavericks, welcome to the CampHacker podcast, brought to you by UltraCamp and 5 Minute Fridays. My name is Travis Allison. I am a summer camp marketing and strategy consultant.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Hudson. I'm a camp consultant and the founder and director of Camp Highlight, a sleepaway camp for kids who have LGBTQ parents, best camp in the galaxy.
My name is Joe Richards. I'm the executive director at Pierce Williams, which is a summer camp and retreat facility. And we're part of the United Church of Canada's camping network. And we're located halfway between Detroit and Toronto.
My name is Dan Weir. I'm a consultant with Immersive First. I recently switched from 25 years of managing camps, overnight camps, and day camps to becoming a consultant.
Welcome back, Dan Weir. Great to have your voice on the show again.
Yeah, happy to see you all.
My favorite thing in getting Dan back on is Dan hasn't seen Joe's beard. So if you're not a YouTube watcher, you should check that out once in a while to see Joe's cool new beard. Not
it's
new,
impressive.
But
it's very impressive. It's like part Santa, part biker. I like it.
If you're not watching us on YouTube, you're not doing this right.
Yeah, if you're not doing both, listening
watching
to
the beard grow has been one of my joys. And
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's my wife's joy because she asks, "How long is this going on?"
Well, Dan, I'm so grateful to have you. You've recently switched into new role, new work. What sort of stuff are you trying to focus on with the camps that are your clients?
Yeah, thank you. So it's been exciting. For me, one of the reasons I went to consulting was I just truly appreciate supporting camps. And really my sweet spot is on camper growth, staff recruitment, staff training, not only leading, but also designing, program quality assessments. So coming in and lifting up the hood of the car and really looking at and seeing where you need help. And then coaching and fundraising as well, too. So I feel really good about the services I'm able to offer. And it's interesting, like my last role, I was managing 7 day camps across Long Island. And that really gave me the opportunity to develop and refine some of these tools and see them actually work in several different environments as well. So I feel really good about it.
That's awesome. So many of those things I can just picture you being so great at them. One thing in particular is that I don't think our industry has enough of is program assessments. People going in and looking around and saying, here's what I suggest. Here's what I see based on my experience. So really, other than Joanna Warren Smith, there's very few people who I see consistently doing that. So it's an amazing, amazing benefit to our community to have you doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, when you talk about that topic, I think the most fascinating part, I think the part that people are apprehensive of bringing someone else in, they also think of their ACA site visit, right, where there's like a list of basically recommendations and things you need to follow. Yep. But the truth is that there's a number of different ways to run camp, and as a consultant, me coming in, I have to not only respect that, but also figure out how you're running camp and then how to best optimize it. And that's partly with your leadership style, it's partly with the resources you have, and also your goals and objectives of the camp, and really understanding that. And it's a very personal process because we put so much of our lives into camp as well. So it's being delicate in the matter.
Well, and when someone comes in as a standards visitor, they are coming in representing a bigger organization. Whereas if you bring in somebody to work for you, they represent your organization. So if you bring in Dan, Dan represents your organization. They're on your side. And not that the standards visitors aren't on your side. It's just that they have a bigger purpose and answer to somebody else versus bring a consultant in. They answer to you.
Exactly. Yeah, and really making sure they understand that the goal is to leave it better than they found it, not to disrupt. So
Yeah,
throw a little bomb and then run away. Which I've heard some horror stories about consultants with as well too. So
yeah. Well, we're grateful to have you back, Dan.
Thank you.
I want to also remind folks, if you leave us an honest review on ratethispodcast.com/camp, that's helpful for others to make a decision whether or not to invest their time into CampHacker. If you would give us your feedback on YouTube, certainly we invite you to subscribe and click the thumbs up button if you appreciate the content today. So we've been thinking about how many new camp directors there are in the world, certainly in the last year and a half, but even more so. And this comes out of a conversation that Dan and I were having about ACA National this year. We're recording this the beginning of March 2023. And thinking about the transitions that are happening so fast in our industry. And just thinking about what advice we could offer to people who are new in a new organization. Since none of us are new camp directors, we can't bring that perspective. But I think the thought exercise we'll work through today is, if we were, with our current knowledge, going to a brand new to us camp, something that has its own culture, that is already running, and we'd been hired to go there, what perspective would we be bringing? What would be our our priorities, and what would be the things that would be a slow burn that we would start now? So I wonder, for you, Chris, what's the perspective that you bring? What's the mindset, I guess? What's the mindset? We're going to a brand new camp. It's not the best camp in the galaxy yet, but it's sure to be. What's your mindset going into this?
I want to walk back my earlier statements. Like I know that Camp Highlight's probably the best in the solar system, but I haven't been everywhere in the galaxy.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So until the probes actually get that far, I mean, it probably is. All right, cut all this out. Anyway, the point to answer your question, for me, my priority, if I was going to walk into a camp now, they hired me to come in and I just have so many questions. Like, one, as you know, I'm super intentional about everything, right? So especially the programming, like I would really need to look at that and see if it aligns with the mission. I'm always interested in how often those things fall away from each other. It happens at camps. It can happen so quickly. Like the mission, I guess, because people don't revisit it after the first or second year, but the programming can really fall away. And maybe not necessarily the programming, but the way in which it's delivered, or the way of the schedule, like somehow, like the mission, it begins to fall away over time. So if I was walking into something, like the word that always comes to my mind is rigor. Like we have to apply rigor to everything that we're doing here. RIGOR, by the way, because I don't know what my accent is doing to that word, but so that's walking in. And the second thing I'm always thinking about walking in is accessibility, which is like, if this is a summer camp for children, like the general population of children, can all children comfortably access this camp? And what does that mean? Is this camp for a particular population, which is fine, right? Or is it billed as sort of a general thing? So as far as it comes to race, sexual orientation, and ability, which is always the three ones that I'm thinking of, gender, which is a different kind of accessibility, because there's plenty of camps for girls and for boys, which is a different kind of issue. As far as I'm concerned, that's my opinion. But that's where I would start. That's I actually can't think past those two things.
Yeah. And that echoes a lot of what I often say with new clients. I've been doing a lot more work lately, helping boards develop long-term vision. And, one of the things that we have this decision-making tool that I've done with Joe. To be frank, Joe is my guinea pig on this tool, where we what are the elements of your mission? How can we align this decision with the mission? But so many camps I go to can't articulate their mission. Like Chris said, it's just disappeared.
Well, and I wonder if it's this idea of a hidden mission, because mission statement is something. So within United Church Camps, we're actually mandated to review it every year. So it has to be in the board minutes that you've reviewed the mission statement. But what we realized as a camp, is that there's also values, right? That values aren't stated anywhere. Yeah. So when I first started here, I put in my tagline at some point in the first couple of years, every child deserves a week at camp was the tagline in my email. And I didn't know that that was one of the board values. but it's a board value because they see me stated every time they get an email from me. And I was like, okay, yeah, that is, as Chris said, that's accessible, right? That every child deserves a week at camp. I'm not saying they have to come here, but the idea of hidden,
Right.
what are the hidden missions and hidden values and principles that you're following, even if they're not stated.
Yeah.
But if I was to, so there's two ways to answer this question as well, Travis, is that, are you being hired to run somebody else's camp, or are you running your own camp as a new camp, right? So if you're being hired to come in, so if I'm a nonprofit camping professional and I come and run another nonprofit, the first thing I'm going to do is watch, right? The hope is that I get a summer where I can control financials, but I don't need to worry about overtaking the camp, because that's the quickest way to have people not like you.
Yeah.
And not that I'm afraid that people aren't going to like me, because that's not a trait that I have. But the idea that you can watch and see where do we do what we actually say we do, right? And so from a camp perspective, we can often talk about in staff training, we do these things, we do this, we do that. But then when your counselors are out by themselves, do they actually do those things when they're not around you? Mm-hmm. One of the best compliments you gave us years ago, Travis, is, oh, your camp staff do what you say they do when you're not, like, just when Travis has spent a few days here and sort of melts into the background as a photographer in a previous life, our camp staff actually adhere to what we say. Mm-hmm. And that's kudos to them, not kudos to me, right?
Kudos to you, for sure. There are lots of camps who say and do and run great training, and then as soon as the director turns around, and I've seen it, it's disgusts me. Some of the stuff I've seen as soon as the director turns around, in front of the director, everybody's 100% bought in, loving it, and then the director turns around and just even the director leaves that state. This is where I'm always teaching comes from, because I watch a director leave the stage, and it was just people were so excited and so enthused. And then the directors and senior staff left the stage and turned into completely different people. And I knew that the kids would be able to see that. So one other thing I would say from taking on consulting is that when I have the conversation with a board and with an executive director, because most of my work lately has been with nonprofits, is that I have to say to them, and this would be my phrasing in a new spot, is I'm doing this for the kids. Like, it's great that I can help on an executive director that I believe in, who I think is doing good work. It is great that I'm willing to take on walking a board through the very slow process of getting better, thinking more, being more intentional. But it's always going to come back to what's best for the kids for me. And there's a lot of framework around that, obviously. But what's your mindset, Dan?
Yeah, for me, it's so funny. Watching new people run camp, or people that come from a childcare background into an aspect, the job is just so overwhelming, right? So, like, you can know the mission, you can know different aspects, but it's really the organization of it and how you develop it. So I find the best thing for someone coming new into a camp is developing good routines on a personal level, and then also for the camp's level. So, I mean, if you walk in and you start asking questions, people are like, oh yeah, we just take care of that. That's not a good enough answer. You need to know when something is taken care of and have that transparent. And it's amazing when you really kind of just do a simple month by month calendar task list for the camp and the prep, what comes out of things that, oh, we haven't done that in years. We keep forgetting to do that. And just those simple fundamentals of developing good routines for your camp. And then based off that, you could develop a good routine for yourself, will keep you organized and allow for you to do everything that Joe and Chris were saying, and really get to the good part of the work with it. It's as you're only as good as your mind and your focus. And if you really have a good base layer routine, then you can take off. But I noticed that, camp is like this web of this ball of knot that people go into, and they try to untangle it, and then next thing you know, it's over, and then they are exhausted, and then January happens, and then they get right back into the cycle. So if they could start untying the knot piece by piece and really spelling it out And then that's how they could delegate. That's how they could do all the other things that kind of come with being a good camp director. But just good routines at the beginning of it makes all the difference.
And I think that goes to what Chris was saying earlier. Sorry, Chris, that, and we were talking prior to recording about to-do lists and whatnot. I think that if I was to start a new position today, I have a ton of things in my toolbox that are going to help me much more than a 22-year-old who's going to start at a camp. And I think that those personal routines, I don't think they can be understated.
Which is all I was chiming in to say. Like, I love a routine. I love a rule. I love an axiom, which is why I love missions. Like, I love the mission is that. And I mean, having a mission that lives, not just for the customers or something pretty to put on the website, but like for the staff and the campers, having a mission that everyone is aware of, it's a North Star that guides everybody. It's the thing you can always point to and be like, does this fit this? Anyway, I just feel like it does a lot of work that we build all sorts of subsystems to do work that our mission should be doing. So walking into a new situation, I would have to really interrogate the mission.
Yeah. It gives you that time to really interrogate it. Right. And that's just the thing I've noticed the most of. Once you get a good routine, your stress level drops as well, too. You can think a lot clearer.
I think the other thing I would say is boundaries, learning what your boundaries and framework are, right? Like, what is the work you're actually hired to do, right? Like, because if we don't define that, and this is the same for the staff who are under us, if we don't give them a definition, we can wander off into the hinterlands of work and focus energy and attention that's going to take away from what we actually need to be doing. And I think that when you're new, if you're an executive director new somewhere, that's a question to the board. Okay, what is my work? Your work is to do everything for camp. That is not clear enough. Give me some clear directions. Where are we headed? Right? What is the work that I'm mandated to do? What is the work that you're okay with me delegating? And what is the work you're okay with me giving up when somebody on the board gives me new work to do? Right? Like, these are the frameworks and boundaries that you need to be comfortable asking them without appearing to be too upfront or too confrontational with them, because as Travis said, it's all about the kids and it's all about being here for kids. And when I let a staff go because they're not here for the kids, it seems, right? They're not giving the energy or the focus. And I think that if I know my boundaries and framework, it's easier for me to sit down and create a work plan as well.
What are the things that you're looking at? So I think, there's so many things. So let me put some structure on this. What are the things you're looking at when staff are arriving? Like, ignoring what you could have prepared or should have learned before the middle of June, the beginning of June, when your staff starts to arrive. What are some things that what are the lenses you have on when camp itself starts to come into being each season?
That's a big question, Travis. Like, can you get any more specific?
Well, sure. Or let me try.
Okay.
Joe said he would go in and just watch, would observe. And there would be things, I think, that with my experience, I would be looking at. I would be looking at how all of the staff in all of the roles treat each other. That's one of the first things I would be looking at. And it would certainly be one of the things I change. If there is division between maintenance, kitchen, and the rest of the world, there's a problem to me.
Okay.
And, so what are those kind of things? What are the things that you're going to be? So this isn't exactly it, but what I'm going to be doing is looking for things that I need to ask why. I'm looking for things that I need to say, why do we do this? And I'm going to try to do it in my best tone. I'm going to try to do it with my blankest face. But I'm looking for things to ask why we do this. So I'm not looking for everything. I'll have to accept that I can't ask that about everything. But those are the things of like, I'm going to ask why we do that.
Okay, now I get it. First thing is that walking in the staff, I would really want to know if everyone knows what their job is. I love a job description.
Yeah.
Especially at a camp, especially if your camp is like a family legacy camp. and your friends and family work at the camp, after a while, nobody really knows what anyone does. Everyone's responsibilities slosh around in a giant pool. And they all just kind of always working together, which seems wonderful, but in like real life can get really messy and really problematic if you all have pre-existing relationships. So job descriptions out the gate, I want to see that. And then I would test them. I would walk around and ask people. I'd be like, what do you do here? Like non-confrontationally again, Travis. I'm like, just be like, so what's going on here? Why are you here? Again, not those words. Everything I say sounds confrontational. I don't know. I need to take a class. Anyway, so that's number one where I would start. And if two things. One, if people seem to know their job description, fantastic. If people don't, then it's a whole nother process. Like, well, what would you want your job to be? Which is always the question that I love to ask camp admin. What do you want your job to be? Mm-hmm. The answers can be shocking sometimes, which in and of itself, when people describe something other than what they're doing, it's always like, oh, so this is why operations are slow.
Sure.
You're not interested in this aspect of it. Got it. Really wish we had known that.
Yeah, I think this goes to the first thing I thought, Travis, is, when Chris said a job description, this goes back to the Michael Brandwein question of, why are you here? Right. And so if you go and ask everyone at camp why they're there, you should get the same answer. Ideally, you don't. Right. But, so that's the one thing, why are you here, and find out why the staff are there. But this also goes back to something that I have the Alt MBA sticky notes on my desk right now. Right. So who is this for? Right. Like every program or everything. Great. If it's for the kids, that's great. Then I will adjust that program. If it's for the staff, right, then and then you're like, okay, well, what is the benefit of this, right? Mm-hmm. Is it for the staff, and does it add benefit to the staff that then adds benefit to the kids, right? So I think that as I walked around as a new person, I might not have time to watch. I said that, and then I'm like, there's potentially you're hired to fix something immediately.
Sure.
And in that case, you need to go in with a lot different of an attitude as a new camp employee, which is my job here is to make sure that camp is here long-term and that kids get this experience for generations, and you're not adding to that, right? And these things don't add to it, or here's how we need to change things immediately. But I think that if you have, as a new camp director, the idea that you're asking the why of, who is this for? Why does it happen? And does it add benefit to the camp? And also the little question that should always be in the back of your head is this a hill I want to die on? Right? Like, because there's lots of stuff. There's even 18 years in, if you can believe this, 18 years in here at Pierce Williams, there's still stuff where I'm like, oh, I don't know why we do that, but it doesn't harm camp. I'm not sure it adds a tremendous value to camp. Yeah, it's not worth me figuring out, the little, as long as it's not harmful. And I would love that it adds to camp. So can we change it? But yeah, you need to choose your hills very carefully as a new camp staff person, executive director, or even just, a camp counselor.
Yeah. What are you looking for when you first get there, Dan?
That's right. I'm assuming in this scenario, right, that I'm being brought in because there's the past leadership left, whether on their own accord or not on their own accord, right? So when I'm first meeting the staff and first coming in, I'm really looking at the fundamental layers of building trust, communication, and problem solving, and really making sure that not only I build trust with them, but that they build trust with me. Same thing with communication and problem solving. And it's amazing how much apprehension can happen with the new leadership coming in with even the best endorsements. And I think it's really important to clearly state what you want to achieve that summer. And as benign as saying, I really want to get to know you, and I really want to get to know what you do, and putting that out there so they're not making assumptions about it. I really think it's important to ask people how they like to be communicated to and to receive, because there's so many various forms these days. And it's always amazing to me what offends people, and when you're trying to be benign and have good intentions, and a lot of that could be just addressed by asking questions. The same thing Chris was saying of what's your job description, right? So asking people how they like to be communicated to, and then from problem solving, just reminding people that like, I trust you in your role, even though we just met. I want you to continue to solve problems, but I also want to, when I ask questions, that's me understanding how you solve problems. It's not me questioning what you're doing. And I think those three areas are just fundamental for when you're coming into a camp and meeting the staff and really getting to know where they're at, on top of everything that Chris and Joe and Travis have said. But if you could figure out how to clear any old air that might be hanging around, or any misconceptions they have of you coming in right from the get-go by addressing those three topics, I think that's your best foot forward.
I want to thank the folks at UltraCamp for being a sponsor of this show. You've heard me say this all season. If you can or need to improve your staff communication, then UltraCamp has provided a free tool. Pre-written prompts, things for you to keep in touch with them. Set yourself up now for a great year, keeping in contact with your staff and making your staff recruiting for next season easier. You can go to the UltraCamp staff communication calendar at ultracampmanagement.com/CampHacker. When you're thinking about UltraCamp, you have to ask yourself, what is the reason why you chose to get into the camping world? As we've talked about today, it's not necessarily paperwork or budgeting or all that stuff, but that is why UltraCamp built their platform. They made it so it's flexible and affordable, as it is powerful, so you can keep your program moving forward. UltraCamp's pricing is transparent and flexible. It means that you can rest easy and focus on what's important, the work that you're doing for your campers. UltraCamp has a low minimum entry fee, clear pricing with no hidden costs, flexible payment terms, and no long-term contracts, so it's safe for you to try UltraCamp. UltraCamp's goal is to help their clients spend less time in the office and more time doing what they love. If you want to know if UltraCamp's right for you, they offer free customized demo sessions, and you can also set that up at the same address. Sign up and get the free download at ultracampmanagement.com/CampHacker. What would be some... It sounds like we all accept the premise that you're not going to make massive... To do this well, you don't make massive changes in the first time. You pick your battles. You find the things that you stick to in this first year. What would... Within that environment, what would be things that you would really want to have started in the first year that you would want to implement? Whether it's just a conversation skill or a conversation framework, what is something you would want to input in the first year?
First, I want to challenge you a little bit, Travis, in saying that that there are situations where you walk in and everything has changed, right? And I've had that experience. This is the mid 90s. I started a camp and I'm like, great. How many returning staff? And they're like, 1. And I was like, awesome. Okay, great. What's the program like? Whatever you want. I said, what are the positions? They said, here's the budget. You can fit the positions into it. And I'm like, I'm a fourth. I just graduated university in outdoor rec. And this is like the perfect place to make camp with somebody else's money, right? You're just like, oh, I can mess this up. But the other thing that to reiterate your question, right? What are the things you focus on if it's not major change? Is that the basics of that, Travis?
Yes. Like assuming that the camp runs safe-ish and you have goodish staff and you've been brought in to just like, I'm trying to imagine how people who are brand new to camp directing in the last couple of years, what we can give to them. So we, in particular, you, Joe, you've got lots of different perspectives to bring to it, but I want to think about what would make their job easier the first year that they could implement.
I think financial review in an organization
Sure.
is huge, right? Where is the money leaving camp, right? I think that is the biggest way to figure out if camp is beyond our campers happy and our campers returning. Is okay, where's the money, and is there a budget? Right. I'm still shocked many years later after, Travis, you've said to us before that you'll consult with camps and they'll be like, oh, we don't have a budget. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't have a budget? Like, that would make consulting work so easy for me. I'm like, oh, great. I can solve all your problems with a budget. And, but I think financial review is the easiest way to sort of see if there were problems or issues, or if there's people who are overstepping some of their internal boundaries. And that really depends on size. Like, Dan, you were at Frost Valley for years and it had a ridiculous number of staff, right? Versus like here at Pierce Williams, there's 5 staff members full-time. And ideally there's 5 staff. There is not currently 5 staff members full-time, but if you're looking for a job. But it's easier in a smaller situation to be like, oh, I know where all the money is flowing. But I think financial review is the first thing I would do.
Which is interesting, and I agree with you, completely important, but it's not a skill that most new camp directors come to this job with. Most new camp directors come out of a passion for program, a passion for staffing, and they're like, I need to do this for a living, and then they do it. So I get that. We don't have time to go into how you get that skill in your first year. I agree with you, that's important. I think we just need to publicly acknowledge that that's not, for a lot of us, a skill that we brought to this as full-time camp directors when we started. I think for me, there's a couple things I would do. We have talked about the 4S's lots of times, probably haven't talked about it in a while. Beth's system for giving decision-making power over to the staff, set up a framework by which they can make decisions. Other than the 4S, which, that framework, which I agree, based on some discussion we even had before recording, that could use some review in 2023. But basically, is it safe? Are you serving others? Meaning, are you obeying the golden rule? Is it good for the stewardship of the environment? And are you building self-esteem? Are you not hurting self-esteem? Are you building self-esteem? So that's a framework I think I'd put into place. I'd look at that in good structure. The thing I'm more and more passionate about and the more thinking about is implementing a 2-second lean culture where it's everybody's responsibility to make camp run 2 seconds better every day. So you're building in from the beginning. Camp is always changing. Camp can always get better. You can be a huge part of it. All you have to do is make one thing 2 seconds better today. And that would give me enough. Those 2 things I think would give me enough in the first year that I could then sit back. I could train people on that change and the interest in it. But if I felt like they could make good decisions without having to come and knock on my door, which you will realize as a brand new camp director is one of the hardest parts of the job, is that there are people just constantly asking you questions. And so if you can put a tool between them and you, that helps you as well. What's something else Dan, what would you implement in the small things you would implement in your first go?
Yeah, small thing, is funny. Joe kind of brought up, I ran a pretty large operation, but I would, I haven't seen this on very small scales. I've seen this on, camps of under 100 kids. I would highly recommend you create a culture where everybody is supporting every single aspect of the camp, and they're removing any form of division. We kind of danced or talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but if you have counseling staff that know if the food's not coming out on time, that's on them as well. If you have lifeguards looking out for business managers and vice versa, it just creates such a better culture when everybody is trying to achieve the same goal, that if someone's not doing well at camp, everyone's not doing well. And to really kind of use that and that aspect, but also be clear about how you do that. So, there's a great acronym, RACI: responsible, accountable, consulting, and informing. And people knowing their roles, for instance, when they go to waterfront or go to the pool, and know that you're responsible for taking care of the kids with this aspect, but this is the person that's as accountable. So creating a culture where people know their roles in different aspects of the operation, but also know that the expectation is that is to perform well as a group, and to kind of remove silos or divisions that can happen. And this just naturally happens. People categorize people right away. We look at the job scope that we have to do, or we look at somebody else and we say they're not working as hard as I am, and we kind of create natural divisions at times. But I would do my best to kind of remove a culture, or create a culture where that is not the priority. The priority is to make sure that the kids have the best experience and to make sure that the camp is flowing as well as possible. And that if something becomes a systemic issue where you're constantly helping, that area clearly needs more resources. And that's when the director should be really getting involved. It takes a lot of sincerity to create that type of culture as well. And a lot of honesty, and I'd be careful as a new camp director coming in not to build a friendship that could be viewed as toxic from the other staff, and to really be seen more impartial. Have good relationships with people. You could certainly have good relationships with people and not be their friends, but that is a key aspect of it, is really kind of emphasizing that we're there to make sure everything is going off smoothly, regardless of these relationships and ego. So
I think I've been struggling with this hypothetical this entire time. Like, what would we institute going in? Because I don't want to be a broken record. I'm obsessed with staffing issues this year. Obsessed.
Yeah.
I'm just obsessed with staff, how staff runs, how staff is trained. Like, I think if I was going to walk into someplace, I think the first thing is really changing the atmosphere of supervision and feedback.
Yeah.
Because I think it could be better. And I think across the board for everybody, I think it could be better, because it's the one thing that, listen, we are bombarded with 1,000 things we need to do on a camp. And I'm always not surprised, because I've been there, but I'm interested sometimes in how staff culture can fall off. Professionalism, whatever that means. I mean, the unloaded version of that word, not the loaded version of it. I think if I was going to walk in, I would really institute sort of picking up on some of the threads that Dan introduced. I'm going to weave it into a beautiful sweater. I'd really stress honesty and feedback. I'd really want to engage all of the cast of characters and be like, I need to know, one, how are you doing? 2, how am I doing? 3, how are your colleagues doing? Just gathering all of that information and having people really get into the groove and get used to me asking them questions and really honoring and wanting to hear their feedback. I think a lot, especially when we get down to line supervisors and line staff, that's not usually the relationship they have with the higher ups. It's all oh no, the boss man's watching. And it's yes, be on your P's and Q's. But also, because you are line supervisors and line staff, you're privy to things that I would just never see. So I need to know your honest reaction to that and your thoughts and your suggestions about that. Can't say I'll use them all, but it helps me understand your thinking. And if you are someone who's supervising someone, and this is the social worker in me leaping out, I need to understand how you're getting from A to B to C. I would need to know that for everybody who was supervising any staff.
I think to tack on to Chris's with feedback, one of the things I've noticed at all the camps I've started at, even prior to Pierce Williams, is that evaluation has not been huge, and people undervalue evaluation, like formal feedback, written feedback, and people are shocked when I say at Pierce Williams we do it weekly. Right? Every staff member every week gets a piece of paper that has their feedback on it, because some of our staff are here for a week here and then off for a week and then here for a week, right? So we don't have staff who are here all summer. But even then, it provides people with something they can literally change immediately. So if you only do an evaluation at the middle of the summer and the end of the summer, you're missing a ton of opportunity for them to get change and to grow into better people. And that's the end goal with staff, is that they leave as better people.
Thank you. I would say my one small final thing, I've talked about this lots of times, but I didn't want to say it on the show. Create a checklist of the people you're responsible for and make sure you talk to them every week. Camp is busy. You're busy. You get pulled in a lot of directions. And one of the best things that has ever happened, it's the relationship piece, it's the feedback piece, is just talk to your people. It doesn't have to be a feedback session. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a big deal. Just make them feel seen. And in bigger camps, you can't do it for everybody. Institute that as a rule with your staff, that they have to show you that they've checked off that they've had a conversation, not a feedback session, not a planning session, just a conversation with everybody that they're responsible for. That huge difference in culture. You show how much you care about people, and so that's my final thought on that. So thank you to the three of you. This is a great topic and so many good ideas. So I appreciate what you folks have brought to the table.
Tool of the week.
So now let us move on to our tool of the week. Joe, you have a tool that you want to start with?
I do. And I was surprised that it wasn't in the show notes. And we've been doing this podcast forever. And it's walkie-talkies, Retevis walkie-talkies, which I was reminded today because we still use them year round here, even though there's very limited staff, because to get a hold of my maintenance guy, I don't use a cell phone because cell phones don't always have reception in the middle of the country or on your site. But Retevis walkie-talkies have really good distance for the most part, and they're fairly inexpensive. You can buy them I think if you buy them en masse, I think they're like less than $10 a walkie-talkie. And
they last at that price?
Pardon? Yeah.
What did you say?
$10,
$10
$20, $10, $20.
Okay.
Per what? Per unit?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
I could be lying full out on this podcast right now.
But if you go to camphacker.tv/podcast, you can look up the show notes from this where we put the link.
As a reference, some of these, even if it's I can talk, don't worry. The reality is, like, this radio I'm holding now was put into service last year, so it's new, but we have ones that were put into service 7 or 8 years ago that are still going.
Right.
And so even if it was $20 a walkie-talkie. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the batteries just, if you're not watching the podcast, I'm sliding the battery off the back. So it's
looks like an old cell phone battery.
Correct. And so the benefit of this is you can assign one person this walkie-talkie, and we have numbers on the side. So this is Travis's walkie-talkie, and Travis has 2 batteries.
Right.
And Dan is saying that currently on Amazon, it's $53 for a 4-pack, which is not $10, but it's still ridiculously cheap for something that seemingly works. And so that is, I was shocked that it wasn't in our show notes.
Pretty good. I'm watching Chris's face.
This should be the commercial. I just spent too much money on walkie-talkies.
Oh, no.
I just spent. Why didn't we do this podcast a week ago? Oh my God, I know, so much money. Okay, moving on.
Non-returnable walkie-talkies.
I will investigate. I will investigate that. Okay.
Right on. Dan, what's your tool?
So my tool is a book by Dr. Chloe Carmichael titled Nervous Energy. She was recently a keynote at CODA, which is the Camp Directors and Owners conference that basically attaches to ACA National, and did a whole presentation on Gen Z. But what I really loved about this is that I find, especially new camp directors, there's a level of excitement that is linked to anxiousness. And if you could address your anxiety and make it work for you, it really is a fundamental aspect of just developing and performing better. And so I'm going to read to you a quote that I just thought would resonate with our listeners, and I'll go from there. So here's a quote. High-functioning people can sometimes be really hard on themselves to the point where their motivation and engagement will suffer. It's often helpful for the high-functioning person to realize that there are many of these stumbling blocks that they are facing are actually present because the person is so high-functioning in the first place. So when you think about camp people, we are often our worst critics. And if we could slow down and really keep fundamentals in mind, routine, and then get to the high level aspects that Chris was mentioning, like mission. It's as simple as that. We don't have to overcomplicate it, but our energy, whether it's anxious energy or excitement energy, can often transform how we do it. And this book is just wonderful. And she was a fantastic speaker. Also talked very well about Gen Z, which I think is a huge aspect of what we do. Is we need to have positive outlooks on generations. So
one of the things that related to that one of the things that has helped me as a speaker the most is realizing that the physiological effects from excitement and anxiety are the same. And so that I could just change how I think about these things. I'm just work on this same feeling is what it feels like to be excited. So probably that's what I am, is excited versus anxious. Right on. That's great. Thank you so much. I have a tool that I've been excited. It's been on my list for a while. I'm glad I finally get a chance to talk about it. It's something that I would have loved as a camp director. It's the funniest little thing. It's a website called getchipdrop.com. And so the company's called ChipDrop, and you can register your camp to get free wood chips. And although we were on a massive woodlot when we were camp directing, it wasn't a priority to buy a wood chipper. And we would often rent one seasonally, but we made a deal with our local electrical company guys or the local township guys, and whenever they cut down a lot of trees, they drop off wood chips for us. But this way you can make that arrangement. If you need wood chips for trails or to put under playground equipment or to delineate certain things, you can register and have people drop off wood chips for free. Local arborists, the township or county workers, whatever it is. It's a cool thing. So I just found it and thought that'd be a good thing. I wish I had that myself. Chris, you get to bring us out as a new camp director going into this. This is going into the summer. This is such a great tool for them to begin to explore.
So, there are so many to-do apps out there in the world. I think, once BlackBerry folded, everyone moved into the space. Like, how do we get people more organized? Thousands of apps. And the one thing I've realized in my journey to be organized is that you can outgrow to-do apps. And that's totally cool. If you remember, like 2 years ago, I recommended Habitica to-do app here. But then I just outgrew it. Now I grew into Todoist.com. Check it out. They got an app. It's also a desktop application. Why do I like it? I love organizing, and you can organize things by project and by label. And it's an unintrusive to-do app, right? Because I think earlier I needed a to-do app that would be it would put it on my calendar, which Todoist can do, by the way. It would alert me, which Todoist can also do. It was just in my face all the time because I needed the slow, gentle pressure to get things done. Todoist it's just more like a bulletin board. You put all your stuff up there. I will say, if you are already a slightly motivated person, it will work really well for you. It displays everything that you need. Like I said, it can put things on your calendar if that's your jam. If not, it's just a great place to store ideas. And I will lean out of the shower, grab my phone, write something to Todoist, quickly label it cool idea, and then go back to my shower. It's just, it's a great repository for all those little things that you need to do. One feature that I really enjoy is that the reminder, you can be reminded at a specific date or time or at a specific location, which I love because I can't tell you how many times I got to pick up medication or something from the drugstore, and I just be like, okay, when I get near the drugstore, remind me. And I'm like, oh, I just love it. Anyway, if it works for you, check it out. If Todoist doesn't work for you, there are so many to-do apps out there, but I just wanted to share this one because it's working for me right now.
Go to camphacker.tv/podcast to find the show notes from this and every show. If you search to-do apps on there, you will find over the years that we have brought up a lot of different ones. We've all been playing with lots of different ones. And Todoist has been mentioned a number of times, so we thank you for bringing that back to the table today, Chris. That's awesome. All right. I want to say a couple other things. I want to bring a highlight to another Go Camp Pro show. Please check out the fundraising at show that Joe and I have worked on in the past. Although we're not producing episodes right now, I think there's some great information in there that would be incredibly helpful. So go to your podcast app and search for Fundraising at Camp. I want to thank Dan for being on the show. If you want to know how to get in touch with Dan, Joe, or Chris, or me, you can go to camphacker.tv/podcast, and we can help you find the folks there. So, Dan, it was great to have you back on. Thanks for being on the show this week.
It was a pleasure to see you all again.
Oh,
Thanks.
Dan, you're awesome.
And
I'm
thank
a
you,
fan
Joe.
of Dan. I'm a Dan fan.
Yes, there
I'm
you
a
go.
Dan fan.
There are a lot of CampHacker Dan fans from over the years.
You're welcome, Travis. I'll be here again next week.
Excellent. Same shirt, different episode.
Same shirt,
Longer beard. Longer beard.
same backdrop.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for being a listener. We appreciate the work that you do and want to make that easier for you. Thanks for the evening, friends.
The CampHacker podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening.
Hey, Camp Pros. We love that our industry is built on sharing. In order to foster that spirit, if you've gotten even one good idea from a Go Camp Pro podcast, a masterclass, from the Summer Camp Pros group on Facebook, at a conference, or wherever else, we ask that you give credit where credit is due. That way, we can encourage camp pros to keep freely sharing their brilliant ideas and make the camp industry better. Thanks very much.
Hey, it's Travis. Camp directors often tell me they're just too tired to take on anything new. That's exactly why my free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic exists. It doesn't add work, it shows you progress. Quick, free, repeatable, you'll know if your systems are paying off without the guesswork. Try it today at camp.mba/Travis. That's camp.mba/Travis.